Hello and welcome to the Seer 365 sessions, where we have interesting conversations about what's going on in the partner ecosystem around the world. So today I've joined by Clearly Cloudy. So full disclosure, I've known Shaylin from Clearly Cloudy for pretty much longer than anybody else in the ecosystem. Shaylin and I used to work together at Microsoft a long time ago. He's very, very knowledgeable, but he's having IT problems today. So hopefully we'll make this work, but we'll get there. Today's topic is around Fabric. So some of you may be familiar with Fabric. I know there was a lot of discussion about it at Inspire a few months ago now, or a month or so ago. And it's a technology that I think a lot of partners will be interested in and thinking about using with their clients. So without much of a to-do then, I will add the guys to the call. Hi, guys.
Hello.
There we go.
Hi, Richard.
That around. You're definitely... There we go. That's the right way around.
Okay.
So Shaylin and David, thank you very much for joining us today on the Seer 365 sessions.
Thanks, Rich. Yeah,
Yeah,
very
no
good.
problem. Thanks,
Nice
Richard.
to be here.
Yeah. So let's start as we always do. Do you want to introduce you? And for those of you watching this live, hopefully on the recorded version, you won't have a problem. There's a bit of a delay on Shaylin's thing, so he's not a dummy. He's not. The delay is due to technology. Let's put it that way.
He's not a ventriloquist dummy. Is that what we're?
Ventriloquist, that's the word I was trying to work out how to pronounce. David, do you want to go first? Introduce yourself, and then Shaylin.
Yeah. So as Richard said, my name's David. Been working with Clearly Cloudy for the past year or so, and I look after the consulting team for Clearly Cloudy.
Very cool. Thank you very much. And Shaylin?
You make me sound like a dummy. But anyway, yeah. And Shaylin from Clearly Cloudy. Yes, Richard and I, we used to work together a few years ago. You made us sound older, you know,
We are.
by saying...
Well, I am. You're older than me.
We're not that old, come on.
Yeah.
Old. Yeah. We're getting there, but we're not that old.
Yeah, well.
But anyway, it's a pleasure to be here, Richard.
Pleasure to have you, buddy. David, do you want to run us through a little bit about Clearly Cloudy, and then we'll get on to the main topic of the day?
Okay. Yeah. So we are a Microsoft partner, and we mainly focus on anything data analytics related, as well as Power Platform, so Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate. Also focusing on sort of the back-end side of things, any Azure components, SQL, data warehousing. We kind of cover sort of the full spectrum of data analytics, as well as spreading out into other areas of Power Platform, which we've done and implemented in a variety of different industries. I'm sure Shaylin can add to that if he's got any other points to give, but that's kind of a summary of what we do as a business.
And now Fabric.
Yes, and now Fabric. Yes.
Now Fabric, which brings us on to the... was there anything you wanted to add about Clearly Cloudy, Shaylin?
No, as I say, we specialize in data analytics, but we have a kind of a background in ERP, in especially Dynamics. But Dynamics to us is an application source. We work within the channel as well. We work with lots of partners, including lots of Dynamics partners, that goes back to from the Microsoft days as well.
Cool. So I know you've done a lot of work with Dynamics partner, Microsoft partners to give them that muscle around the data and AI stuff that you're experts on. So, which brings us on to Fabric. So, David, do you want to walk us through what Fabric is, and then we'll kind of go into a bit more depth. So, to start with, what is Microsoft Fabric?
So, Fabric is Microsoft's software as a service end-to-end analytics solution. So it's bringing a lot of the components that have sort of sat disparately under one hood. So including, you've got Power BI in there, you've got Data Factory and Azure Synapse, a lot of the components from there. So it's Microsoft software as a service end-to-end platform. And then it's got three different workloads. You've got the Data Factory in there, you've got data warehousing, and then also linking with Power BI. plus other data science components for machine learning and real-time analytics from Synapse. But it's kind of a bringing together of all those different workloads under one hood in an end-to-end solution.
So why should I care? I mean, I guess that's kind of the big bit, right? What great new technology, but why is it important to me as if I was a Microsoft partner?
Well, I think one of the big things. So what I didn't mention there was sort of the layer below, which is Microsoft's OneLake, which kind of encompasses Fabric. So what Microsoft have done with the OneLake technology is basically create a one data lake, as the name suggests, to house the entire data estate of an organization. And obviously you can control who can access what via different workspaces within the service. So it's kind of providing a single source of truth for data within an organization. And I think the beauty of it is you can have your data warehousing, any lake houses that you've built, which is another object that you can use for storing data, any pipelines you're working with, reporting, it's all within the same platform. So there's no sort of, I need to connect out to this data factory ADF pipeline over here, or connect out to another warehouse. It's all within one platform. And so it makes it much more seamless. So for example, on ADF, you wouldn't have to start delving into creating integration runtimes or that sort of thing, which adds sort of additional complexity. And then, for example, on Power BI reports, you've got this direct lake mode. So any data that's within your data lake is immediately being reflected on your dashboards without the need for refresh. So it's kind of, I think the main benefit is this, if we think of like the top level being the centralization of all the data into one place. So it prevents sort of the siloing that happens in a lot of organizations, and then building solutions upon solutions to try and get the data where you need it. And then with the sort of data warehousing capability, I mean, I know Synapse has been around for a while already, but it provides you that scalability of data warehousing. So you're only using what you require, and you can scale up and scale down, etc.
Very cool. All right.
The other thing though, Rich, is it just streamlines it a bit more. So whereas before, and as Dave has mentioned, these workloads are connected, they're together, and whereas before, some of those components you may have had to create them outside and then connect Power BI. Yeah, so David mentioned some examples about Azure Data Factory, pipelines, or a storage engine, or Azure Data Lake, or an Azure SQL. But Fabric, creates and gives a true and a good, workspace for everything that's connected. So if you are creating those Power BI reports, it's within Fabric. So, and as we mentioned, it gives that kind of a one lake view, but it just makes it easier. But you mentioned, why would partners be interested, or why do they care? Absolutely, partners should care about this, but ultimately it's customers that are going to care.
Yeah.
Because customers are going to say, well, Fabric, you can have everything together. Why do I need to create X, Y, Z separately? We have, we're working on, with projects at the moment and helping them migrate from other technologies to a Microsoft technology and using more of Azure. So there's lots of things that we do from on-premise to Azure, and now a solution option, because it may not just be the answer, but a solution option is Fabric. But another option may be Data Lake, Azure SQL, etc. And we're also helping clients migrate from other technologies, things like AWS, to Azure, or to Fabric. So it'll actually be, so partners should care and will do. I'm not saying they will, but ultimately it will come from a lot of their customers, or their prospects, where clients are talking about, tell me more about Fabric,
Okay. Sorry, the delay between this caught me off guard there. Very cool. So we thought that the best way of doing this was, as we got David on as well, to have a little bit of a demo to show you kind of what that looks like. We don't normally do demos on these sessions, but we thought on this particular topic it might make a bit more sense and would help people visualize what that looks like. So with that, then I'm going to get rid of that and go to that, and then David, you can start sharing whenever you want to, buddy.
Okay, cool. Let me just share the screen then.
Don't show whatever you want. Make sure it's relevant.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. This one's being random enough as it is. So. That coming up?
Okay, let me just try this window. Okay.
There we go.
And then if I do, can you see the?
Yeah, we're up.
You can see. Okay, good. It's all shared. Excellent. Yep. All right. So yeah, just to give a bit of a demo and an high-level introduction as to the different objects within Fabric and the different workloads you've got available. So when you come into the Power BI service, you've got this Power BI icon in the bottom left corner, and then here is where you can access the different areas of Microsoft Fabric. So here you can see the split between, you've got the data factory items, and then down here, these are the Azure Synapse components. You've got your data engineering, data science, data warehousing, etc. So for example, if I was to click into data engineering, you then see the various different objects that I can create or use within the data engineering space. So one of the sort of the key areas or new things within that Fabric has bought is this idea of a lakehouse. I mean, the technology is not new, but within Microsoft Fabric and within sort of the Power BI service, it's a new thing. So so what the lakehouse allows you to do is to store both structured and unstructured data. So I have set one up. So if I go into my workspace and then I scroll down, I've got my test lakehouse here, and then we'll get a feel for what the lakehouse looks like. So as I said, you can store both data in tables and in files in here. You can bring in data in different ways. So if I wanted to bring in some data into here, I can purely upload a file, but you've also got the capability of data pipelines as you'd get in Data Factory, or you can use data flows, which gives a sort of Power Query type functionality. And they've also given this this shortcut functionality here, which enables you to connect to sources that may sit outside of this particular lakehouse, like a lakehouse in a different workspace or a data warehouse, etc. And then it displays the data as if it resided within your own lakehouse here. So essentially, this is one of the objects for storing data within Fabric. So you can, so these tables are stored in Parquet format, and in here you can basically see them. You can get previews of the tables. If I've uploaded any files, you'll see them in this list. I can choose to then convert these to tables, and then I can create a Power BI data set off this if I want to. So this is the brief overview. What the lakehouse is one of the objects within Fabric for bringing in data and storage of data. So one of the things I should mention when you create a lakehouse is you also get alongside that is a SQL endpoint. So this basically is a SQL interface that enables you to start querying your data and exploring the data. So this is kind of a in terms of the SQL part, is more of a read-only interface. So you can write queries, you can explore what the data looks like. So you can, it's got the standard sort of SQL query interface, or you can do a visual query, which gives you a more sort of Power Query type interface. So if I was to drag a table over here, for any Power BI users, you can then see it gives you more of a sort of a Power Query type interface. You can do things like merging tables, appending tables, any transformations such as grouping data, replacing values, etc. And you can also then view the SQL if you want to. But this is quite a powerful tool in terms of exploration of the data. And then the third part, the important part of the Lakehouse is it also creates a Power BI data set. So within this SQL endpoint, you get a data model as well. And so this is a basic model that I've created, and this is within Fabric where the modeling would take place. You can create other data sets in addition to the one that's automatically created, but in terms of modeling, it's within this SQL endpoint. And then you can create Power BI reports off of that references data, and then you'd create any calculations within here. So that's kind of a brief overview of the Lakehouse. Then also you've got your Synapse data warehousing. So I've also created a warehouse in my workspace. So essentially, you get a similar interface to what you get on the SQL endpoint. It's just in here, within the data warehouse, you get the functionality of being able to edit, insert, update queries, etc. And sometimes, because this is in preview, it does throw errors at times. So this is what the data warehousing interface looks like. And then within the data factory, so this gives you the components around data integrations, data flows, etc., bringing data into your data warehouse or data lake. So you've got this data pipelines piece is a very similar interface to what Azure Data Factory looks like. So if I was to create a pipeline, this is going to be quick. You can see you've got a lot of the functionality in here that's very similar to what you'd see in Azure Data Factory, such as the copy data, bring in data-file notebooks. You can use store procedures, etc. So that's kind of a summary and a brief sort of whistle-stop tour of the various workloads that are within Fabric. We also got these more data science, this data science component here, and you've got the real-time analytics. I'm not sure we've got time to go into those, but that kind of gives you a brief flavor of what's available to explore within Fabric. So that's a good point to hand back to yourself.
Thanks,
Shailen, if you've got anything to share.
No, I was going to say, it looks good, David. And how easy is it for people who are already using Power BI, especially Power BI Desktop, to then connect to these new data sets that you create within Fabric?
So yeah, let me just load a.
Just talk about it.
Yeah, so I mean, you can either do as I showed. You've got the model in there. You can create a report based off of that model, and then you get the web-based interface where you can build out your report visualizations, etc. Similar to how you'd be able to edit reports on the Power BI service as things stand at the moment. But that doesn't mean you can't access the data sets from Power BI Desktop. So one of the new options they've added on the Home tab within Power BI Desktop is the option to access the one lake. So to explain a bit further, the one lake is where any lake houses, warehouses, etc. would sit. So essentially, you can then access that lake house from Power BI Desktop and then pick up a Power BI data set that you've created within the lake house from Power BI Desktop itself. So it's quite simple. You just click on the One Lake Data Hub option, and then you can go into your lakehouse, and then it just shows you a list of the data sets that you can access, similar to how you would connect to a Power BI data set, as has been an option within Power BI Desktop for quite some time. So
cool.
So the bit, and I'm definitely not technical, but the bit that I'm kind of getting from this is customers got disparate systems systems on different technologies, some might be on-prem, some might be in the cloud, Microsoft technology, non-Microsoft technology. And this is kind of a way of bringing all that together, so you could have kind of reporting, as an example, over all of it without having to create a lot of potentially pretty complex integrations or using is that kind of the one of the use cases for this?
Yeah, I think so.
Definitely.
It's moving away from the complexity of data integration, and bring it all into one place, and then, as Shaylin was saying, making the sort of end-to-end analytics sort of journey more seamless.
Yeah.
I mean, as with all these things, there will be technicalities, obviously, but it's kind of streamlining that process from less sort of one object that sits over here that I need to connect to here between, say, ADF and Azure SQL, and then to my Power BI report, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's bringing it all and centralizing it and removing all the siloing of data, et cetera, or moving away from that. It's not completely removing it, but
cool. And then from a cost perspective, what would that look like from a customer perspective? To set something like this up, are we talking days, weeks, months?
So time-wise, it's pretty quick to get yourself up and running. I mean, in terms of integrating large volumes of data, it would be whatever time it takes to set up any ETL process, etc. But you can start reporting on data, for example, just by uploading some files and converting them to tables within the data lake very, very quickly, or that sort of thing. I don't know whether, Shaden, you've got any more sort of thoughts around that piece. But I would say it's a very quick and easy process of getting set up on.
There's still work to be done. So when you think about the development time, right, or consulting time, it's far easier and I'd say quicker than setting up all those components. Yes, if you're going to create all these ADF pipelines to something, Azure SQL staging, and then to a presentation, and Power BI report, it will definitely reduce that time. Yep, but we don't know in terms of overall. There's no kind of by X%, because it depends on the use case. It depends on how the data's come in. If you need to spend a little bit more time on the querying part to make sure the data's correct and good, that's where a lot of, a majority of time is spent currently, and that will continue to be the case. But in terms of implementation time, it will definitely reduce the time, compared to other, and all of the other components. In terms of overall costs, it's still in preview. So there are some kind of costs available, but it'd be safe to say that, from a Microsoft perspective, still, overall cost to be announced. Plus, it will depend on, like Power BI, etc. It depends on what kind of agreement you're on as well.
Well, but I guess you got the implementation cost itself. Get that? It's going to be faster, potentially a bit cheaper. But I think the other piece there is the ongoing cost as well. So as you want to add additional data sources, or the maintenance of it, because I think sometimes we kind of forget about that ongoing maintenance piece is potentially an even bigger number than the implementation, because over the next 5 years, whatever, things will happen. You buy a company, you sell a company, whatever it might be, you want to have that integrated as well, and then this will make the whole process a lot simpler. So, very cool. I can see why everybody's so excited about it.
It's good.
Yeah. No, it's a good platform. I mean, as Shaden said, it's in preview at the moment, and there is development required, but it's starting to look pretty good. Very cool.
Well, guys, we're coming towards the end of our time together on this call. Is there anything you wanted to sort of just to wrap up with before we finish?
I was going to say, good demo. Overall, we are engaging with customers at the moment, talking about this, and showing and helping them. We're putting designs together as well, just helping on their overall strategy for migration to the cloud or data warehousing in the cloud. And Fabric is now one of the options. So yes, there are some question marks about overall pricing, etc. But yeah, it's one of the options.
Yeah, cool. And David, anything from you?
No, I think, yeah, I mean, as Sheldon said, it's more of an exploration at the moment, and exploring the idea with customers, including it in potential solution designs that we're offering, so that people out there know that this is a potential solution available. That's another option further to what's already out there. So I think, yeah, it's definitely it's an exciting move by Microsoft in terms of the developing of their data and analytics, if I can get my words out, capability. So yeah.
Very cool. Well, thank you both for your time. I hope everybody enjoyed talking about our conversation about Fabric today and David's demo. So we got some comments on the from some of the viewers saying it was a good demo. So well done, David, for doing that. Hopefully, Shaylin will get some faster internet at some point. That would be good. He needs to move from his little village. So yeah. So thanks, guys. Thanks everybody for joining us today. Thanks for your time, and I look forward to seeing you all again in the near future. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Rich.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Richard.
Bye.